Hey YouTube! Like you, I've been having a ton of fun with Animoog, but unfortunately it has cramped the hell out of my hand, so I can't play it anymore. I figured I'd talk to you guys about it instead, and since there are already a couple of great reviews for it, I'll skip right past that and get into a tutorial to show you how to get the most of it really quick, just, jumping right in and having fun. So the first thing I should probably teach you is how to pronounce it. It is Animoog. Do not let the Brits confuse you. It is not Moog, it is Moog. And I've got the initialized patch that you get by hitting the new preset, and I've set the keyboard to a scale I want to work in and the octave I want to work in. And although it calls itself this anisotropic synthesis engine, it's basically a really elaborate and innovative wavetable engine. So if we move this bit here, we're moving through different wavetables. So this is a wavetable here. And this is an entirely different wavetable. So each of these 8 timbers, as they're called over here, are different wavetables, and you can assign all kinds of different ones to each of the individual ones. I'm going to work in the initial patch since that's the easiest to get going. So let's just cruise around and find an area that sounds interesting. Ooh, I like that. All right, let's stick with that. So as you heard, as I was scrolling around, I found an area that's got all kinds of different sounds that I want to play with. So I can go up to my orbit and tell it to start orbiting along the x-axis at, let's give it some speed. And now it's going to go back and forth along the x-axis like this. So it's playing at different portions within that wavetable. So you see it's kind of like a square shape at the far right, and something else altogether. It's more noisy over on the left. And you can get into it and start throwing in some Y. And now it's going into the other wavetables. But let's stick to one wavetable for right now. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, what the hell kind of synthesis is this? You don't even have a low-frequency oscillator on your filter. So, okay, I'll show you how to do that real quick here. We go into our envelope mod area, and we want to use our source as the LFO. And we want to set our destination as the filter frequency. And let's give that some of this. Alright, so that's not sounding very good, but we can make it sound more interesting by changing the rate of the LFO. We'll go to a new mod over here, and we're going to select our destination is the LFO rate. And to control it, we're going to use the position X, which is basically it going left and right here on the X. We're going to use that to control the rate. So we go back here and give that a little bit of boost there to tell it to actually do something. So if we increase our orbit, that sounds way more interesting and evolving than just, playing with a simple LFO that's on a set rate, or even playing with the rate knob manually. So that's already pretty interesting, but we can make it even more interesting by applying yet another mod. And this time I'm going to be using the poly pressure, as each one of these channels has a poly aftertouch going on. So the higher up, the more pressure you're getting. So let's add a new destination of orbit Y amount. And now, give it a little bit of stuff there. So now it's traveling into the other wavetables when I raise my finger up to the top. I can go straight back down to the center when I got it down at the bottom. So we've only made like 3 or 4 changes to the initial patch, and already we've got a lot of different ways of playing this. And now we can go explore other wavetables with our little note ghost here. So you get the basic idea that using the location of our ghost note representation on the XY pad, we can modulate all kinds of different stuff. So if we go into our paths now and add in a path that just travels along this wavetable, we've got our X being the mod for our LFO rate. So now when we've got this huge swath of X that's going to be played, if I give it some speed, listen to that, that's awesome! And you can keep adding paths as much as you like. Let's add another one that's going to stay in the extreme side of the X, so it's going to continue to play with the LFO rate, and then it's going to come back down, so... And you'll notice that its speed is changing independent of anything else based on how long a path is. So on this shorter path, it's taking a lot longer time to move around. And it moves across the longer path really fast. So we got a pretty interesting sound that's going on here. And we can throw on a little delay. Let's change the modulation that has our LFO affecting our filter frequency to also use polypressure. So now it's not going to do any kind of LFO stuff when the key's way down here. So even though it's going all over the place over on the X, it's not doing anything. So now as I raise my finger up here and it gets back over to the X. And remember that we're also doing the Y on that, so the Y orbit's starting to spin around wildly when I've got my finger up, as well as the LFO coming in and playing with our filter. And let's also change our amp envelope to give it a little bit of an attack. You can try to screw around with it using this, but that's kind of janky, so just double tap on that and you get a nice big screen to play around with. And let's thicken it out. The more you detune it, the more it adds stereo separation. Or at least it sounds that way to me, I don't know. So I hope that gives you an idea how to get into this, just start playing around. And once you have it doing something that you like, you can just start exploring around with it. So, you know, play it around and... So there you go, the same exact patch, now in an entirely different position, giving me an entirely different sound. It's a lot of fun.